You know, it seems like every day brings a new series of joys in this country. In a country where we're touted to be one of the most powerful countries on the planet, leader of the free world, of the strongest military on the planet. Boy, has all of that shuffled to the side recently. Well, here's another article we're going to start to look at today. Before we get there, let's step back a little bit. I'd like to step back to here. Do you remember when email first came out and you might send a message within your group and it got copied to everybody by accident? Or even worse, you went ahead and sent out a list to everybody like it was supposed to, and then somebody didn't realize it was on everybody, or they didn't realize it wasn't just going to you, and they sent something horribly inappropriate and it went out to everybody. At least now we understand etiquette around carbon copy and blind carbon copy usage and emails. But nowadays, if there's an error with that, there's incompetency involved. And either that individual is absolutely incompetent and shouldn't be in a workplace, or the individuals that hired this person are specifically doing what we call jellyfishing. They're putting people in place who are not competent, won't even ever meet the level of the Peter principle of one step above being promotional, their promotion meeting their intellect, but not even close to being proper for the job and really messing it up along the way. So, you know, we had some funny times, some good times we learned. Remember Apple's autocorrect? Apple wanted to help you correct a text even after you sent it. A freshly published patent describes a way to let you correct any mistakes in a test after you send it, but just before it's actually sent. This is kind of confusing as it goes back and forth here, but this is 2014. And remember, in fact, Apple was notorious. You would type something, and as it was being sent, you could see the spelling or the grammar change on the screen, and you can't, unless you were using a special tool or special software, you don't get that back, right? You couldn't yank it back. So it was out there. And what's interesting is I haven't experienced that with Apple for many years. They've really ironed that out. But over the last 2-3 years on Google Android, they're doing that same thing now. And they're not only sending it as it's going, so you've typed it, you see what's on there. Sometimes they'll even autocorrect while you're typing. So you know your thought is there, you know you put a particular word, and yet it's a totally different word that gets put in there. And you go back and retype it again and click the check mark, meaning, yes, that's what I mean, DWIM, do what I mean. And yet the word changes again, and you go back 3-4 times sometimes. And to me, this is idiocracy at its best. If I, as an intelligent human being, cannot type a text to somebody and then tell the computer, yes, that's what I mean, then why is it allowed to continue to override me? It's really getting crazy. So remember this issue here. This was October 2012. Now, I don't know, you know, I've heard from the source that this is true. I don't think the validity of it actually is. I think there was a whole lot more than this to what this story says, but let's just go for face value. On the morning of October 5th, 2012, NSE, that New York Stock Exchange, which is usually NYSE, was hit by the so-called fat finger trade, which resulted in a trade getting executed in a fraction of a second for a whopping amount of RS 650 CRORE, triggering a massive flash crash, wiping off nearly RS 10 LAKH CRORE from investors' wealth in the Indian stock market within seconds. Now, this is an example. Oh, so that wasn't New York Stock Exchange. That was over there. We had one in New York too that I thought I was pulling up here. But really, there has to be safeguards in place so that this accident doesn't happen. And no, I don't think that's what actually occurred. Now, what about this one? During the summer, the leak of California owners' private data went pretty wide. In fact, individuals who weren't even supposed to be on that list seemingly got added to that list just before the leak happened. And regardless of politics, the leak of California owners' personal data was a wrong thing to do. The Attorney General actually leaked this data, and it's the second time that he did it on purpose, posted it openly for people to grab. And as you know, once something's on the internet, you can't take it back. It's gone. People are constantly tracking and grabbing. In this case, the California Attorney General's office leaked the names and addresses of thousands of owners across the state. There's no, they did it on purpose. And here, California DOJ breaks silence, then they start gaslighting. Wrong side of the law. And here we have NPR. This is the opening article I talked about. This came out just a couple of days ago. The IRS says it mistakenly, oops, my bad, made public data for about 120,000 taxpayers. The catch is, it wasn't, when I looked at this, I thought, oh man, you know, it probably got briefly exposed and pulled right back down. Oh no, look at how long it was up there. Private information involving about 120,000 taxpayers was temporarily made public by the IRS. Okay, temporarily. The agency announced on Friday. When do you make all bad announcements? Friday afternoon. Confidential data, especially Friday afternoon before a long weekend, everybody's long gone. Confidential data from some form 990Ts, and this is a business tax return. It's used by tax exempt organizations, was accessible to download on the irs.gov website, search engine for about a year. The Wall Street Journal first reported. What do you mean mistakenly made it public? It was temporary for about a year? Come on, what level of incompetence is there? You know that we are not the incompetent ones. They're doing this on purpose. The agency blamed a human coding error that went under the radar for months until an employee recently noticed the mistake. The IRS is required to notify Congress of any incident involving more than 100,000 individuals under the Federal Information Security Modernization Act. They took immediate action after a year. This is exactly how I know that this whole squabble back and forth about wanting to know the former person in the White House's tax return was all one big game. Once you provide it to this agency, there is nothing private about it. They leak everything. Everybody has access to the terminals, and it is hacked constantly. They knew from day one what was on there, and they just played a cat and mouse game because they tried to make it look bad. And in fact, nothing negative came out about it, did it? It was only the lies back and forth for us. So what about this one? How far are we going to go in the society? Remember the leaks this summer? Supreme Court probe into the leaker goes unresolved 4 months later. How difficult is it to find out who leaked something? So if you're looking at a crime, you look at the last known piece of information related to that crime. So in this case, they might not have the absolute person who took the information or reported it from the beginning, but you work from the event and work backwards. So where did it first get published? The first, not the others, but where was it first published? Back up. Who was the person who published it? Backed up. Who had they been in communication with? All that stuff is trackable. Even if you think it's through an encrypted source or secure, there's a manner in which they got that information. Probably not directly from this one individual. So back up. Once you find that one, you search through phone records. If there's a ton of ways, just back up, back up, back up. Finally, you find who is responsible for that leak. And by the way, once you're back at that square one, the individual says, oh yes, that person had access, or yes, they were in the room, but we will never ever know the truth on this. But my point is, the United States Supreme Court typically keeps all deliberations and draft opinions private while a case is pending. At the start of the publication process, the court releases a single slip opinion for the case. However, some instances of news leaks of private deliberations or draft opinions have occurred, is what has been rewritten in this George Soros owned site. This is not okay. I am not one to think that anybody should gaslight another person or to lie or to mislead. But when you know that you're going to cause a problem on a national level and you're going to take the gas to fuel the fire, there's a problem with that. Who was on this list about these businesses that the government wanted to have attacked? All that information was grabbed. And I'm positive that the moment it was leaked, they were notified and they slow walked through the process until they finally took slow action. It was out there for a reason. What about this? Again, twice, absolutely not an accident. These data leaks are being done on purpose. Manipulating the stock market, it happens every day. And if you still have money in the stock market, at 5 o'clock, do you know where your money actually is? Because it went to China years ago and it's not coming back per the Chinese laws. The funds are not coming back to the United States. How about AI helping you out? They want to help you correct messages. And in this case, they're saying they want to give you the responsibility or authority, but they're just doing it on their own. And then back into using the technology that's given to us. Just a basic technique that we have. Pay attention. Follow the reasons. Who are the people involved? And follow the money. These leaks are not an accident.